Russia, meanwhile, accused of using chemical weapons in Ukraine. I'm not trying to lure you into violating any confidentiality for some classified briefings you might have had on House Intel, but what can you tell us?
Well, we know Russia certainly has a history of doing this. They used chemical weapons in Syria, and they certainly have violated treaty after treaty in both the weapons capabilities that they've produced and in their behavior on the battlefield. So it certainly would be consistent with what we understand that Russia will and is willing to do.
What about the future of Putin? Do you think he'll stay around after this current term that he just dubiously won re-election to?
Well, he certainly doesn't show any lessening of support in Russia. You would have thought with the mass casualties, the extent to which the Russian military has been diminished in capabilities during this war, that would have had some impact. But it has not had an impact in the overall population, even as sanctions have had an economic impact on Russian citizens. And as with most authoritarian regimes and authoritarian rulers, Putin has no incentive to give up his grip on that country.
Mr. Chairman, you were one of the main drivers behind the Ukraine supplemental. Have you seen any results from that yet, or is it too early?
There's some great headway that's being made on the battlefield. The administration finally made the decision to send long-range ATACMS capabilities to the Ukrainians that will give them the ability to attack Russian postings in Ukraine that are threatening the front line, and their missile systems and drone systems that are resulting in attacks not only on their energy grid but on Kyiv itself and on Odessa. The ability to take out those threats and hold them at risk will diminish Russia's ability to prosecute this war.
And what about the F-16s that they should be getting soon from other NATO members? Do you think that's going to be a game changer?
Well, I think it's certainly something that's been so long in the making that it's one of the additional pressures that have been on the Ukrainians because of the Biden administration just inability to make a decision. We saw very early on Poland offering MiGs to Ukraine, and the Biden administration refusing to assist and thwarting that effort to get them planes. They could have had planes last year. And now, with the training of the pilots and the F-16s being provided, they will be able to have them to be able to protect Ukraine itself.
The Defense Department warning lawmakers that Russia's developing indiscriminate anti-satellite nuclear devices. What does that mean? What does that look like? What have you heard?
Well, this is one of those issues where we've been pushing the administration because they have not been declassifying the information as to what the real threat is. Finally, last week, Dr. Plum from DOD came and testified before our committee, on the Armed Services Committee, and acknowledged that Russia is developing an anti-satellite nuclear weapon that would be devastating, decimate, if it was detonated in low Earth orbit, all of the civilian, commercial, and military satellites, as you just said, indiscriminately. So it would not be that it could just take out ours, it would take out all of them. And as Dr. Plum related, it would render, if it was detonated in low Earth orbit, the space unusable for beyond a year.
Oh, wow.
So what you have here is that Russia irresponsibly is now acknowledged by the United States to be developing a weapon that would really be lights out, on planet Earth in so many ways. We are so dependent on space, and even if it was launched and in space and not detonated, because the plan as it was disclosed by DoD is that this would be a satellite that would reside in orbit, stay in orbit, and then could be used by Russia at a later time. Day one that hits orbit, it would hold at risk really all of our space assets, again, civilian, commercial, or military, and again render space unusable for up to a year, which would just cut off all of the technological ability that we have in communications and data transmission. It really would significantly impact life here on the planet.
Oh, man, I can't even imagine, excuse me, the kind of panic that would touch off.
And that's why we on the Intelligence Committee here, the over 25 members voted to notify the other members of Congress here and to call on the administration to declassify this information, to take every action necessary to keep this satellite from being deployed. The administration cites that they went before the United Nations and tried to do a resolution in the Security Council that was vetoed by Russia, and China abstained. But that's that's ineffective in really what we're facing here as the crisis. This literally is the Cuban Missile Crisis in space, and this administration, I believe, is sleepwalking itself into an international crisis that would really threaten the United States significantly.
Oh, very disturbing. I wonder, though, these anti-satellite nuclear devices plus Putin's threat of hypersonic missiles, are we falling behind?
Absolutely. Russia continues to develop what many people call exotics, nuclear weapons that have capabilities that we've never seen before. They have, as you just said, hypersonic nuclear weapons deployed. They have other weapons that they are designing and that they have tested. And meanwhile, we continue to look to the 60s and 80s and try to modernize just so that they're operationally capable our nuclear deterrent.
Not reassuring.
It's certainly concerning. It's part of the debate we have in Congress here every year.
And what about Iran's prospective development of nuclear weapons?
Well, this administration has said, as the Trump administration before them has said, that we will not allow Iran to become a nuclear state, and certainly Israel has joined us in that declaration. Iran, however, continues to enrich uranium at a pace that puts them in a very short time period to be able to create a nuclear weapon. They have already been working on nuclear weapons delivery systems. The Obama administration's Iran nuclear deal did not prohibit their continued development of missile technology, which has allowed them to continue to advance at a time that they become closer to being capable of producing a nuclear weapon.
Do you have the sense that any of their nefarious allies, like Russia, North Korea, are they helping?
There have been instances where we have seen cooperation between North Korea and Iran, and certainly Russia in utilizing Iranian drones on the battlefield in Ukraine has pledged its support for assistance for Iran. So it is absolutely feasible that both North Korea and Russia are assisting Iran in trying to advance their capabilities.
I thought those Iranian drones didn't work so well.
No, they actually were working pretty well on the poor Ukrainians and the battlefield, and on the way it has impacted the civilian population. It has been very significant, and in ways that Russia wasn't able to do because they did not have the production capability for the numbers that Iran has been able to provide to them.
Really great insights. Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for your time today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Great to talk. Congressman Michael Turner is a Republican of Ohio, representing the Buckeye State's 10th Congressional District. He's chairman of the House Intelligence Committee.